an explosive lawsuit has erupted, pitting an animal rights lawyer and a dedicated commissioner against two top officials of the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. As allegations of civil rights violations emerge, the case threatens to reshape the landscape of wildlife management in the state. Dive into the complexities of this intriguing legal battle that may redefine the balance between governmental power and individual rights. What triggered this high-stakes clash, and what are the broader implications for civil liberties? Welcome to Court Decoded. Today, we uncover a gripping federal civil rights lawsuit involving key figures at the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. At the heart of this case is a struggle over how wildlife management intersects with constitutional rights. Join this exploration into allegations that could possibly alter both legal and environmental landscapes fundamentally. The lawsuit filed against the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, WDFW, presents a unique intersection where civil rights and environmental governance clash. The plaintiffs, a commissioner and an animal rights lawyer, argue that the actions of the department's officials infringe upon their civil rights, particularly concerning freedom of expression and procedural fairness. Wildlife management organizations, such as the WDFW, are tasked with balancing ecological preservation with public interests. Yet, the increasing pushback from animal rights groups often leads to heated debates and accusations, manifesting in legal proceedings like the one at hand. The implications of this case go beyond individual grievances, touching upon how governmental bodies make decisions that impact both wildlife and human rights. The outcome could set a precedent on how these vital yet potentially conflicting areas are managed in the future, highlighting the delicate balance officials must maintain in executing wildlife policies while respecting constitutional rights. This lawsuit serves as a test of whether existing frameworks adequately protect both environmental and human rights, prompting reflection on current policies and their alignment with broader legal principles. The lawsuit's origins trace back to controversial decisions made by WDFW, perceived by the plaintiffs as exceeding administrative authority and infringing on rights. This perspective is grounded in a series of events where policy changes appeared to disregard thorough procedural due process. The commissioner, a key figure in local governance, alongside the animal rights lawyer, vocalized their dissatisfaction, claiming that their input was systematically ignored. This, they argue, reflects a broader problem of administrative overreach and lack of transparency in decision-making processes. At stake is the principle of checks and balances, ensuring that governmental decisions are subject to scrutiny and do not operate unilaterally at the expense of individual rights. As the plaintiffs argue, actions that undermine freedom of expression and democratic participation through procedural shortcuts cannot stand unopposed. Moreover, their case points to the need for consistent stakeholder engagement, allowing voices of varying interests and concerns to be heard and respected. This not only safeguards democratic values, but potentially improves the efficacy and fairness of policies implemented by bodies like the WDFW. Central to this unfolding drama are the plaintiffs, a respected commissioner known for his unwavering community advocacy, and an animal rights lawyer famed for relentless defense of animal and human rights. Together, they form a formidable alliance challenging the authority of WDFW's leadership. Their criticisms target two high-ranking officials personally named in the lawsuit, individuals with significant influence over Washington's wildlife policies. On the opposite end, these officials, charged with upholding the intricate balance between conservation mandates and human interests, face accusations that could challenge their professional credibility and the department's policy frameworks. Understanding these individuals' roles and motivations offers crucial context to the legal battle. The plaintiffs view themselves as protectors of civic rights and activists for ethical environmental governance, while the defendants must navigate the complexities of policy implementation under a scrutinizing public gaze. Thus, this case is not just a legal contest, but a reflection of broader societal dynamics, wrestling with questions of authority, accountability, and the extent to which government actions are subject to public participation and oversight. Filed under federal civil rights statutes, The lawsuit claims that actions undertaken by WDFW officials violated constitutional protections, notably the First Amendment and due process rights. Key to the accusation is the assertion that WDFW management systematically stifled dissent and marginalized opposing viewpoints in policy discussions. By potentially dismissing stakeholder concerns, the department, according to critics, infringed upon rights to free expression and meaningful engagement in policy advocacy. Beyond individual grievances, this case probes into larger legal questions around procedural fairness and governmental accountability. Central to this is the doctrine that ensures government agencies operate transparently and are held answerable to those they govern. Such principles are inherently linked to the enforcement of democratic norms, where public institutions must not only serve their mandate, but do so within the boundaries of legal employment, respecting rights and fostering inclusive dialogue. In emphasizing these points, the lawsuit seeks not only to adjudicate particular complaints, but to underline the importance of public institutions safeguarding individual rights as a fundamental counterbalance to their authoritative role. As this case traverses the complex landscape of law and policy, its potential implications are profound, with reverberations that could extend well beyond local governance. If the plaintiffs prevail, the verdict might set a precedent reinforcing the obligations of government bodies to actively ensure broad stakeholder engagement and heed public input in policymaking processes. This would signal a shift toward increased transparency and adherence to procedural norms. Conversely, should the court side with the defendants, it would underscore the discretionary authority afforded to governmental institutions, stressing their capacity to execute decisions in pursuit of their conservation mandates, even amidst public dissent. Moreover, this outcome might intimate that while public participation is essential, it must operate within the practical constraints posed by administrative realities. Hence, reflecting on this potential outcome obliges stakeholders to consider the appropriate balance between effective governance and civil rights, ideally crafting a framework where both coexist without compromising institutional efficacy or individual liberties. To comprehend the potential ramifications of this lawsuit, it's necessary to delve into historical precedents where civil rights intersected with governmental policy. Past rulings in similar cases have oscillated between reinforcing individual rights and endorsing institutional autonomy, depending on context and broader implications for administrative law. Notably, the US legal system has produced landmark judgments accentuating the need for transparency, accountability, and stakeholder inclusion in governmental processes. These decisions have upheld the prerequisites of credible public comment periods and open consultations as foundational for legitimate policymaking. Nevertheless, there have been instances where courts affirmed that governmental agencies' latitude to enact decisions, perceived as crucial for fulfilling their operational mandates, stands paramount. This historical tapestry of judgments informs the current lawsuit's landscape, providing both a guide and a gauge for arguing the merits and implications of institutional responsibilities vis-à-vis civil rights and public participation. Recognizing these nuanced judicial balances helps highlight the intricate nature of law where governance meets individual liberties. The lawsuit has ignited vivid reactions both within Washington and across broader advocacy communities. Stakeholders encompass a spectrum of interests, from conservation advocates who underline the essential role of agencies like WDFW in safeguarding biodiversity, to civil rights proponents stressing the paramount need for inclusive governance. Animal welfare groups specifically have expressed solidarity with the plaintiffs, viewing the case as emblematic of ongoing struggles to integrate ethical animal treatment considerations within state policy mandates. By galvanizing a coalition of voices, these groups draw attention to the case, demanding an equitable balance where governmental functions align with public will and rights protection. On the ground, community discourse reveals a populace invested in the outcome, both supporters and critics. This underscores the public's vested interest in ensuring that entities wielding significant influence, such as WDFW, abide by the hallmarks of transparent and participatory governance. Ultimately, this social reaction serves to remind decision-makers that their actions echo far beyond the confines of legal proceedings, bearing on public trust and institutional legitimacy. As the legal battle unfolds, both sides prepare meticulous arguments to bolster their positions. The plaintiff's strategy accentuates the potential breach of constitutional guarantees, aiming to depict a pattern of administrative action that stifled opposition and hampered procedural fairness. They plan to underscore evidence suggesting a lack of transparent stakeholder consultation and input, a point that holds significant weight concerning due process violations. The defense, conversely, is likely to stress the nuances and discretionary powers inherent in administrative roles. They may argue the necessity of swift and decisive policy-making autonomy to effectively manage and conserve the state's wildlife resources. Moreover, they may present evidence countering the claims of systematic rights infringement, pointing instead to their efforts in engaging with diverse sectors within resource constraints. This strategy also seeks to underline the operational challenges faced by bureaucracies in reconciling expansive policy mandates with comprehensive public engagement. Both legal teams, grappling with these complex issues, are tasked with convincing the judiciary of their narrative's legitimacy by grounding their arguments in both legal precedent and evidentiary sufficiency. The court's verdict on this high-stakes case will not only determine the resolution for the parties involved, but could also fundamentally influence the trajectory of wildlife management and civil rights discourse nationwide. Should the plaintiffs win, it will enforce a crucial reminder that government agencies must uphold constitutional protections and operate transparently and inclusively. This potential outcome emphasizes the significance of democratic participation in governmental operations, reinforcing the roles and voices of stakeholders and citizens. Alternatively, a decision in favor of WDFW would affirm the discretionary powers of governmental bodies, allowing them to navigate complex conservation challenges with required administrative flexibility while still adhering to overarching legal frameworks. This precedent affirms the delicate symmetry between efficient resource management and the necessity for public accountability. Decisions from this case reverberate beyond environmental policy, influencing how societal values intersect with legislative execution, guiding future engagements where civil liberties and administrative objectives intersect. Stay tuned as the implications of this groundbreaking lawsuit unfold. Subscribe for more insights into pivotal legal battles that shape our world. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like the video if you found this analysis enlightening. Empower yourself with knowledge, engage with the law, and help foster a more just society.